Hello everybody, this is Mike, and today I am going to tell you exactly why the one thing not only heals you from trauma, but actually rewires your hard drive, and so that you never have to go through that pain again. And so that means we're going to look very briefly at the 12 steps. Hi, this is Mike, and this is the One Thing That Heals BPD and NPD Abuse channel. And I am here because I am somebody who got involved with an extremely beautiful, wonderful person, one of the most beautiful, sweet souls I've ever met, who also happens to be, as far as I know, an untreated, undiagnosed borderline. And so I did the one thing. I experienced the worst, most concentrated, horrific pain of my life. I mean, I wanted to die. It was worse than anything I'd ever experienced. And that's saying a lot. And I talk about it in my new book, How I Survived My Borderline Girlfriend, which you can get on Amazon, Kindle, or Audible. You can also go to audiobooks.thunderwizard.com. So today I'm going to tell you why the one thing works and why it is something that will cure you. And I'll explain to you in detail, specifically, what it does to rewire the brain. If you're willing to take a look at it, you can heal. Now, my experience is the vast majority of people on this channel aren't interested in the one thing. They're interested in me giving you the porn of talking about how messed up the borderline is and what's going on in her screwed up brain and all of that. You want to get off on that, but when I say, yeah, and just do the one thing and heal, the room, everybody just scatters like cockroaches. So those of you who made it onto this video, if you watch it and you do it, you'll never have to come back to this channel again. You'll never have to spend any time thinking or feeling horrible about what happened. So let's get into it. So the 12 steps, are they pseudo-religious nonsense, or are they actually brilliant tools to hack the unconscious? So before we go any further, people like to conflate the 12 steps with religion. And that's understandable because in the 12 steps, in some of the versions, they use the word God. So bear in mind, the 12-step program was synthesized in the 1930s. So just about 100 years ago. So 100 years ago, they're barely out of the 1800s. So in the 1930s, there was only two religions that you could choose from in the United States. You were either a Christian, a Catholic, or a Baptist, or some other kind of Christian, or you were Jewish. That was it. There was no talk of Shiva or Rama or anything. There was no talk of any, you would, if you had said something like a higher power, you would have gotten shunned. So any kind of spirituality, you had to use the word God. Now, if you put the slightest bit of effort into looking in the steps, you find out very quickly that the 12 steps has nothing to do with religion. In fact, they go out of their way to tell you that this is a program of God as you understand God, which means today we wouldn't use the word God. We wouldn't even use the word higher power. We would say this is a program of spirituality where we connect to something we find to be spiritually uplifting. That, if you can hear that and that doesn't bother you, great. So don't get wrapped up over the word God, because it's not the religious God. Having said that, I completely understand if you are agnostic or atheist and you don't even want to believe in anything spiritual. That's okay. I understand that. But unfortunately, the way that our brains have evolved, we have to utilize something. A doorknob, the ocean, the sky, the property of love, the electromagnetic force, something that exists that's beyond you and greater than you. You have to use something. And because of the way our brain is wired, it works. And I'm going to explain why. So I'm going to specifically focus on the fourth step. Bear in mind, you don't jump to the fourth step. You have to do the steps in order. If you don't do the steps in order, you're going to trip. But I'm going to show you, especially those of you who have done the fourth step, if you've done it correctly, I'm going to tell you why the fourth step is actually the key to rewiring your brain. By the way, just to be clear, the 12-step program is actually a much better distillation of Buddhist principles than the Buddhist religion. So if you like the idea of the Buddhist religion, the 12 steps are actually even better. They actually put into practice what Buddhists spend their whole lives trying to figure out through, Zen meditation. So again, this is the one thing that cured me, and if you do the one thing, it'll cure you. All right, so, and also, before I go any further, there's a difference between meetings and the steps. There's no shortage of people that come onto this channel, drives me crazy, who said, I've been to meetings before, it didn't do anything for me. Well, I don't give a crap. I didn't say go to meetings. I said work the steps. You have to work the steps with a sponsor. You can't work them by yourself. It doesn't work that way. So you have to go to meetings to find a sponsor, and you have to go to meetings to identify. But meetings do not heal you from your narcissistic abuse pain any more than if you have syphilis, going and sitting in the waiting room of a hospital is going to cure you of syphilis. You have to actually go and take the medication. It's not sitting in the hospital, but you have to go to the hospital to get to see the doctor, who will then give you the medication. You have to go to meetings to find a sponsor to work the steps. So stop telling me that meetings don't work for you. I don't give a crap if meetings work for you or not. It's not the meetings, it's the steps. And the steps you do with your sponsor, and then ultimately you do them by yourself. And they will rewire your brain and cure you, I guarantee it, of the pain that you're experiencing from your narcissistic relationship. Now, why does this need to be healed, first and foremost? So, time does not heal all. And that is not true in the majority of relationship trauma. You're in a relationship with somebody that cheats on you, somebody that's abusive to you. There's all kinds of people out there who are abusive and they don't suffer from personality disorders. Somebody was mean to you and betrayed you and cheated on you, maybe even stole from you. You can heal from that. Somebody dies on you. I went through that. My perfect soulmate, she was just the ultimate. I hope someday to find something like that again, but won't surprise me if I don't. She died. Devastated me. Absolutely devastated me, and I healed from it. Time heals all. Time does not heal the damage done to you by your borderline or narcissist, because even when the relationship is over, they continue to damage you. Even if they die, they continue to damage you over and over and over and over, and it never goes away. And you don't believe me? Just go ahead and keep doing what you're doing and tell me how you feel in 5-10 years. There's one guy I blocked off the channel. I've mentioned him before, but he's a perfect example. He used to come onto the channel and he'd ask me the same question. He would say, how can I trust my now wife? He got remarried. He says, I'm married with a wife and she treats me really well, but I'm afraid, I'm paranoid, I don't trust her, and I'm worried I'm going to sabotage it. And I go, oh, that's real simple. Just do the one thing. Just work the steps. Say, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not my problem. I'm not codependent. I just want to know how can I, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. You need to work the steps. So he, first off, couldn't admit that he was a codependent. And then second, he didn't think that the steps would do it for him. And yet he would, 3-4 months would go by, he'd message me the exact same question. And I'd give him the same answer, and then he'd want to argue about whether or not he was codependent. And I just finally blocked him because he's so trapped in his situational narcissism, he doesn't want to get better. And, the thing is, you don't have to agree with me. Here's the great part. You don't have to agree with me. This isn't like becoming a Christian where you have to believe in Jesus and then you'll be saved. You don't have to believe me. I swear to you. You can, if you do the steps thinking they won't work, they'll still work. If you have a bacterial infection and somebody gives you antibiotics and you don't believe in antibiotics and you take the antibiotics, then the antibiotics will still cure you. So I don't give a crap if you believe me. I'm not going to argue with you trying to convince you. I'm just here to tell you, you do it, it works. Don't do it, it won't work. Not my problem. So let's get into why it works. You heal from every relationship because over time, your brain is wired to do just that. Your unconscious is wired to consume the introject of the person. You know, my fiance passed away. She died, and it took a while, but my unconscious mind consumed that introject, the little avatar in her. I still remember her, of course. I remember us, but she doesn't have the same kind of significance and power that she used to have, which was so painful after she died. My mind, you know, the macrophages in my unconscious gobbled it up, and now it's just a nice little picture somewhere in my head that I think about every now and then, but it's not something I interact with anymore. That's not the case with your borderline. Your borderline has devalued you, abused you over and over again, discarded you probably, but the introject of her never goes away. It's continuing to talk to you all the time. You're in denial. You may have been forced to leave your borderline either because she discarded you and you didn't have a choice, or because she made it so destructive that you had no choice to leave, but you're still in love with the idea of her. You're still in love, and not just in love, you are attached and addicted to the idea of who you were hoping she was going to become. You fell in love with that idealized version of herself that she projected to you and was to you for however long, first week, month, year, whatever it was. You fell in love with that. You introjected that into you, and you are still in love with that, but she doesn't exist. So your brain is skipping. It's like a record. It's skipping because you fall in love with the introject, which then normally what happens is if you have a relationship with somebody, you have an introject of them. You have a little avatar of them in your unconscious that you interact with. When you say, I miss somebody, it means that you've been interacting with the idea of them, but it doesn't fulfill you because it's not real. So then you call them up and you say, I miss you. Do you want to get together? Then you meet them. The little avatar of them in you actually then aligns with the real person, and you remember, oh yeah, that's why I liked her so much. And then it sort of balances it out and and it continues to create a relationship. Well, with the borderline, the opposite happens. You have this avatar in her of the perfect little sex kitten, perfect whatever she was that she reveals herself to be in the beginning, and you then need to experience that. Your introject reminds you that she's not there and that you miss her and that you want her, and you never really got her to love you anyway. I still am not finished with the project, which is the project of getting her to love me. That's the project that you're totally obsessed with that. And so you want to see her because you want to finish that project. You want to finally get her to feel safe so that she'll love you, and then the project will be complete, and then you can move on and have your life. But the little borderline in you still keeps telling you, I'm perfect. Go fix me so I can be perfect for you. And that doesn't matter if she abandoned you a year ago, a week ago, or yesterday. It's as fresh because it's like a record skipping. That's why you can't get past it. Your brain is skipping. Your brain is trying to resolve it, but it can't. And the reason why is because as your brain tries to resolve it, it bumps into your nervous system that is deeply entrenched in a trauma bond, deeply entrenched in intermittent reinforcement. You are waiting for the reinforcement to come, right? They treat you well, they abuse you, and then they come back and treat you well. Like a dog, you're in the part where you're waiting to be rewarded. You're sitting there, dogs, they will sit there and wait for their food. You're sitting there waiting for your food and you can't not do it. Your nervous system is more powerful than your conscious mind, and you can't get out of it. And it's causing you horrific pain. It's making you feel like you're crazy because in fact you are. You have situational narcissism. But the good news is that you don't have a personality disorder, so you can actually pick up the needle off the record and you can heal. And the way to do that is by working the steps. So the way the steps work, steps are very simple. They are designed to hack into your unconscious mind to help reset your brain to do what it is designed to do. Your brain is designed to help you sift through survival instincts. When a survival instinct gets out of whack, your brain looks at it and goes, okay, that doesn't work, let's rethink this. And then you move past it. When you break up with you leave a job, you break up with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you are in that state. Your instincts are telling you, I need to be in that relationship. I miss them. It hurts. And your brain goes, no, actually, that's not in your best interest. Let's rewrite that. Let's erase that and come up with a new one. And then a year later, you're like, oh yeah, I remember her. I wonder if she's doing okay. Hey, how are you? You got a new boyfriend? That's great. That's awesome. You got over it. You never get that with your borderline. So what the steps do is they help you to do what your brain wants to do, which is to put all of these survival mechanisms back where they belong, working to help you survive. Right now, your survival instincts are working against you, and they are actually killing you. So when you hear the phrase character defects in the 12-step program, it doesn't mean what you think it means. You think character defects are sins. No, they're not. Character defects means your survival instincts that are either warped or they're skipping or they're malfunctioning. And so all you have to do is just, you pick up the needle and put it back on the track, the record plays. Okay? That's what your brain is trying to do. So, step 1, came to believe that we were powerless over. So you are in a state where you are powerless. And you are powerless because your nervous system, as I said, has regressed back to an infantile state. It is conflating. It is mistaking the introject of your borderline for your actual mother that you need in order to survive. So you are under a false delusion that your borderline has the power to keep you alive. She doesn't. It's not your fault. Your nervous system believes it, and it doesn't matter what you think up here. Your nervous system is much stronger than your conscious mind. So you are powerless. You're powerless over the compulsion, the addiction, the repetition compulsion of getting back together with your borderline. You're powerless over it. So all you're doing is you're just acknowledging a fact. There's not something wrong with you. You're not weak. Just like if you have a record player and it's playing and the record's skipping, there's nothing wrong with the stereo. There's just a little, the needle is stuck and that's it. Nothing wrong with anything. You blow on the record, put it back on, and it'll work just fine. You're the same way. You're not broken because you have these character defects. It just means that your record is skipping. You're just going to pick it up, blow on the album, put it back down, put the needle on, and everything will be fine. So the first step is just acknowledging the fact you are powerless. Your record is skipping and you can't make it stop. Step number 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. It didn't say anything about believing in Jesus or becoming religious. It's just a power greater than you. Since you're powerless, you can't keep stop your record from skipping. Then you need somebody else to come by and pick the needle up and do it for you. A power greater than yourself doesn't even mean it's a conscious entity. It just means something. The power of love, rational thinking, the ocean, a doorknob. It doesn't matter. As long as it's more powerful than you, the way that your brain works is if you focus on something that you believe to be a force that is more powerful than you, this amazing thing happens. You begin to have the ability to do something you couldn't do before. If you want to say that it's because of an actual spiritual essence, great. that's only going to serve you. If you can't accept that concept, then just accept that you've been wired this way. Our ancestors going back millions of years have been shamans. They've always believed in the ancestors or gods or forces of nature. They've always looked at things that way. For whatever reason, it works for humans. It's something humans have evolved to do, whether you believe in a spirituality or not. It's a problem-solving thing. Here's the difference between religion. Religion, in fact, the word religion means to bind up. Religion is designed to control people. It always has been. Spirituality, shamanism, is about solving problems. The shaman goes into a trance and he tries to talk to, the spirit of the storm, or he wants to talk to the power of the animal to find where the animals are. It's about solving life problems. So when you use your brain in a spiritual fashion to solve life problems, your millions of years of evolution will kick in and it'll work. And you don't have to believe it. As opposed to religion, where if you don't consciously believe it, you're an unbeliever and you'll go to hell. Spirituality doesn't care whether you believe in it or not. Okay? So that's the second step. Came to believe that something, the ocean, the sky, whatever, has the power to restore you to sanity. And so that second step is saying you are in an acquired state of insanity, that you have acquired a personality disorder. It's not permanent, it's temporary, but it won't go away. It's acquired. It's like an infection. There are infections you get that won't go away. You can keep it, and all you have to do is pop a couple of antibiotics and it's gone for good. So that's what you've acquired a mental illness. You're nuts, you're crazy, you're bonkers. And you need some other power. You need something to come and pick up the needle and put it back on so that the record will play. So that's all you're saying. Step 2 is you came to believe that some power greater than you could restore you to sanity. Sanity means taking appropriate action. The actions you're taking aren't making any sense. The third step, this is people love to, I've been in 12-step programs for almost 41 years, and I can tell you this is the biggest stumbling block. People sit on this for months and months and months, and then they destroy themselves because that's not what this step is about. So the third step, turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand God. You can take the word God and throw it out, because again, that's at least 100 years old. They didn't have any other word for the quantum conscious field. They didn't have a word for that. So they used the word God because that was the only word that they had. You can replace it with whatever you want. Turn your will and your life over to the power of common sense. It doesn't matter. Turn your will and your life over to a doorknob. A doorknob is more powerful than I am. If I try and open that door without turning that knob, the door's not going to open. The concept of the doorknob is more powerful than me. I turn the knob, the door opens. That's all that's happening, is there's a power greater than yourself that gets you to think differently so that you can take action you normally wouldn't be able to take. So don't get bent out of shape over that. You don't have to spend time trying to come up with your concept of God. That's where people get lost. They go, yeah, I've been meditating and I still don't know what my concept of God is. It doesn't matter. It's that you just acknowledge that there's something, you don't know what it is. You came to believe in a power greater than yourself. You came to turn your will and your life over to God as you don't understand God. Trust me. You don't need to figure it out. My concept of God has changed so many times. In fact, the crazy stuff that I believe now, I wouldn't have believed 40 years ago. I wouldn't even come close to it. So the concept of God is not relevant. What's relevant is that you turn your will and your life over to a force greater than you that you trust to be benevolent. You don't like God because you think he's a narcissist? I think so too. Turn your will and your life over to the power of love. I don't care. Because we'll take love, for example. Love exists. Love was here before you got here. Love will be here after you die. It's already more powerful than you. There you go. I've just given you a concept of God that you can use. And so you turn your will and your life over. It's a decision. You just decide to go, you know what? I obviously I can't do it. I'm trying to make this work, and I'm destroying myself. So I can't get myself out of this rut. So I'm just going to stop, and I'm going to just turn it over to whatever, and I'm not going to worry about it. That's it. Your mind has already shifted. You're no longer obsessing over how to fix it. You're not going to try and fix it anymore. Now, the first 3 steps in the original 12 steps when they were created, the first 3 steps were done like that. You sat down with somebody and you worked those 3 steps. You could do it in 10 minutes. It's not, what happens now. People spend months on a step. That's not what originally happened, because remember, this goes back to Alcoholics Anonymous. And these guys, they were, if they didn't do something, they were going to drink and die. And back then, what happened is there weren't these cushy hospital programs. If somebody was an alcoholic, they locked them up and put them in a straitjacket, and they went crazy. So if they didn't figure something out, this weekend, they might very well end up in a loony bin for the rest of their lives. So they work those first 3 steps almost immediately. You can work them however you want with your sponsor. I recommend doing them quickly. I don't find the need to spend time going over it. But you know what? It doesn't matter as long as you're doing it. Now let's get to the step that's going to heal you. The first 3 steps aren't going to heal you. The first 3 steps set you up so that you can do the 4th step. Now, you've read the 4th step and you said, a thorough and fearless moral inventory. Again, these are guys back in the 1930s, and, but it's not at all what you think it is. It's not writing a huge novel about all the horrible things you did and what your mom did to you, and it has nothing to do with that. In fact, it is incredibly simple. In fact, the less you write, the better you are. So we're going to take it. Well, I'm just going to give you one example. So the 4th step is you writing down your resentments. Now, if you are one of these guys that says you hate your borderline ex and what she did to you and you want justice, that's called a resentment. You have anger that won't go away. You should be angry. You kept giving yourself over to somebody that kept betraying your trust and devaluing you in the worst possible way. It's only human to be angry. So stop judging yourself for being angry. I don't judge you when I point out how angry you are. I'm not judging you at all. But you're being driven by a resentment. Resentment is a Latin word, resentire, which means to re-feel. Anger is something that's supposed to come and go like a flash. You're driving down the street, somebody cuts you off, almost forces you off the road. You get angry. Hopefully you don't get into a road rage incident, but you get angry, you honk your horn, and then a couple minutes later you realize you're going to be okay. And then the anger dissipates, and before you know it, you've forgotten about it. That's what anger is supposed to do. If you're still angry, you're re-feeling the anger. You are in a resentment. So the resentments are what keep the record skipping. So how do you deal with it? Very simple. You don't try and tell yourself, I forgive them. You're not going to be able to forgive them. Stop trying. You're angry for a reason. You're rageful because your survival was threatened. Remember, your nervous system believes that your survival is dependent on finally getting this borderline to love you. So your survival instincts have been threatened. And that is when you are angry. So if you're still angry, it means that you're still in the trauma bond loop. You have to get love or you're going to die, and you're angry about it. You're having a temper tantrum because mommy is not meeting your needs. That's very real. Don't dismiss that. So we have to deal with it. So we write down our resentments. We do them one at a time, and I'm going to give you one. You're going to have a bunch. You might have whole pages worth of resentments, but we're going to do just one. So what you're going to do is you're going to make 4 columns on a sheet of paper. So you're going to get out a sheet of paper. You're actually going to get a pen or a pencil and actually write with your hand, because the brain is connected to the hand. It's a very powerful thing. And you're going to draw a line across the top, and then you're going to draw 4 sections. So you're going to draw a line. There'll be one section. There's going to be a second section, a third section, and then if you need to do a 4th section on the back of the paper, you can, or if you can fit all 4 sections, that's fine. So you're just going to draw one line like this and then draw another lines like that to create those 4 sections. Then you're going to use as few words as possible. Again, you read thorough moral inventory of myself. Oh my God, I don't want to write, or maybe you do. Most codependents want to talk forever, and they want to write a big novel about what she did and how I felt. And we're just going in literally with a scalpel, and we're taking the wires of your brain and disconnecting them and putting them back where they belong. That's it. When you're dealing with something like that, the least amount of words, the better. So before we get into that, there are only 5, count them, 5 instincts that are affected. There are 5 survival instincts that get warped. And these 5 survival instincts are, and this is in terms of your relationship. So whenever you have a resentment, what I'm saying, whenever you have a resentment, one or all of these 5 survival instincts have been inflamed and are going crazy. So first one is, let me see if I remember this, all 5. First one is self-esteem. So everybody needs self-esteem. Second one is security, physical security. I need to have, I need to be safe so I'm not exposed to the elements, or, in some kind of physical danger or emotional danger, financial danger, just security in general. So you need, your instincts are self-esteem, security, and then there are finances. So your finances, if somebody messes with your finances, that is an attack on your survival. Okay, so there's 3 of them: security, self-esteem, finances, reputation. In order to function in this world, human beings are social animals. We have to have a functional reputation. If something damages our reputation, that could affect all of the other things. We could end up on the street if our name is smeared bad enough. The 5th one is sexual relationships. These are the 5 things we need, and basically I haven't seen anything more than that. So limit it to these 5. These are the 5 instincts. When you're with a borderline, all 5 of these get screwed with. Your self-esteem gets screwed with because she's going to devalue you. She's going to make you feel like crap. You're going to hate yourself. You're going to feel unworthy and unlovable. So your self-esteem goes down the toilet. I get these 2, they're so close. Self-esteem, your security. Borderlines are so irrational and so unpredictable, and quite frankly can be dangerous. Your physical security, your emotional security, basically security in general, just things being predictable, your security's out the window. So your self-esteem, your security, what else did I say? Self-esteem, security, your reputation goes out the window, because your friends are saying, why are you still with her? And you're like, you don't understand. And you're like, no, we don't understand. So your reputation is in doubt. She's smearing you. She's talking smack about you. So she could be out there maligning your reputation. She's out there sleeping with your asshole cousin in Vegas. That's going to screw with your reputation. So if you're with a borderline, you've got 3 of the 5 already. 4 is finances. Need I say more? You lent her the money. I mean, you bought her this. I mean, I got involved with a borderline. I ended up spending $5,000 on a computer for her because she needed it for her work. And then I went, at her insistence, I went and put a down payment on a house that I was going to rent, this big old empty, 3-bedroom house, and we were going to live in it. And then she bailed on me with that, and I was out all this money. I mean, the amount of money I lost, not working because I was taking her to the hospital because she's flipping out about So all 5 of these things are going to be affected by your borderline girlfriend. And again, because your primal instinct is the instinct to be loved. That instinct is the one that's going crazy. Remember, what kills infants more faster than anything else is the lack of love and attention. So these other 5 are secondary to that. So we could add a 6th one, the need to be loved. All right, so you're mad at your borderline girlfriend because she has screwed with these survival instincts and they've all become inflamed and they're going crazy. And that's why you're angry. We get angry when we're threatened. Got it? All right, so your 4th step, you're going to write the columns. You write, the first column is who you're mad at. So you write down my borderline girlfriend. Then the next column, above the first column, you put who. The second, you put why. The third one is affects, like what it affects. And the 4th one is my part. Okay, so you write down, you draw a line across, you put enough things, you have 4 columns. The first one is you're mad at who? You're mad at your borderline girlfriend. So you write her name down or his name down or whatever. And then you write down why. Now here, don't go off on a big paragraph. She was supposed to this and that, and then just you've got plenty of resentments. Don't try and get them all in one thing. She cheated on you with your asshole cousin in Vegas. All right, so I'm mad at my borderline girlfriend. She cheated on me with my asshole drug addict cousin in Vegas. So that's why. Stop there. Number 3, effects. All right, so now you're feeling the effects. You're imagining in her mind she's having sex with you in your cocaine dealer cousin's trailer in Vegas, the meth dealer. You can see it in your mind. It's filling you full of rage. So what are the character defects? What are the survival instincts that are being stimulated? Well, does it affect your self-esteem? Sure as hell does. So write down the word self-esteem. Does it affect your security? Sure as hell does. I'm extremely insecure. He's really unsafe, and I just feel insecure when the woman I love is screwing my asshole drug guy cousin in Vegas. So you write down security. It affects my reputation. It sure as hell does, because she's taking pictures of your toothless cousin kissing her and putting it up on Facebook. It's screwing with your reputation big time. So you write down reputation. You write down finances. I don't even have to come up with an example. You already know all the finances that cost you. She's spending your money. She took money out of your wallet. She took your credit card, and her and your asshole meth dealing cousin are drinking champagne and taking pictures of it. So your finances are affected. What was the last one? Security, self-esteem, finances, reputation. I forget what the 5th one was. What was the 5th one? Security, self-esteem, finances, reputation. Anyway, the 5th one is going to be involved too. I can't remember which one it is. In any case, now you do the opposite. You look at all of those. So your security. Now you have a character defect. Your character defect is that you are insecure. This is a character defect. This is not good. If you are insecure, you are not going to be successful in this world. The human monkey species needs to be secure. You have to have self-esteem. You have to have a feeling of self-esteem. You have to be to believe in what you do in order to function. So forgive me if I'm confusing it. Your self-esteem is down. So self-esteem, you put Sorry, security. I started with security. So your security is messed with, so you write down insecure. Your self-esteem is messed with, so you write down low self-esteem. Low self-esteem is also a character defect. You go down to the third one, and your reputation is affected, so you write down pride. Because you care more about how you look you're willing to throw away how you look in order to have this woman love you. So your pride is going to get screwed with. So right now your pride is going through the roof. So right now you got an ego problem at the moment because she's messed with your ego. So you're insecure, you have low self-esteem, and you have pride. And then you have money. Your money's been messed with, and that's driving the crap out of you. So now your greed is messed with. So now you write down greed. And then the fifth one is sexual relationships. Well, definitely your sexual relationships have been screwed with, because if she's screwing your asshole meth cousin in Vegas, then that's going to mess with your sexual relationships. And we are programmed, both men and women, we're programmed to have safe, secure, successful sexual relationships, because if we don't, the human species won't survive. So we have an innate feeling of anger when our sexual relationships are screwed with, right? So all five of those things. So you are insecure, you have low self-esteem, you have pride, you have greed, and then sex is lust. You're lustful. Now you're sitting there going, I don't have any of these, none of these things. This isn't about, one of the things codependence, again, reputation, big thing with codependence is they have a need to look perfect to the world. So this is, you're taking an honest look. Now you understand when it says a fearless and thorough moral inventory of ourselves. Now you're taking a look at it. It wasn't that you're a horrible person because you lied and you stole. No, it's because somebody else's actions have the ability to inflame your pride, your ego, all of that stuff. And these are character defects that are getting in the way of your functioning well. All right. So then you look at your part, and here's where now you've picked the needle off of the skipping record. When you start looking at your character defects, that's actually your higher power has now picked up the needle, and the record's not skipping anymore. It's stopped. The whole world has stopped, because you're like, what? I'm insecure? What? I'm egotistical? She's the one that did it to me. I'm the one that's greedy. I'm the one that's full of lust. She's the one fucking the toothless guy. What are you talking about? So now this is good. The needle is off the record. The record isn't skipping anymore. In that moment when you are fighting with the thought of, I am not the bad one here, now you're no longer focused on her, because your rage is trying to get control over her so that she'll love you again. That's why you're so full of rage. You're now not thinking about her. Now you're trying to figure out, what the hell? I'm not these horrible things. I'm the innocent victim here. All right, so now the needle is up off of the record. It's not skipping anymore. There's just silence, and you've got to fix this. So you now write in the last column, my part, meaning, what did you do? Let me finish the sentence. Stop. What did you do to give yourself a resentment? You thought I was going to say, what did you do to provoke her to go fuck your toothless meth head cousin? That's not what I said. I said, what did you do to give yourself a resentment? So the assumption is that you did something irrational that a healthy person would not have done. And that's what started the record skipping. Because you got into this irrational state, and it just created this trauma bond loop, repetition compulsion, and the record was skipping. If you were never out of balance to begin with, you never would have put yourself in a position to have a resentment to begin with. You would have seen her coming, you would have said, wow, she's really hot, something's just not quite right with that one. I mean, the makeup is smudged, and yeah, she looks like she'd be fun in bed, but come on, there's just, That's a healthy person, but you didn't. You went, oh, look, her makeup smudged. Oh, I want to go and cuddle with her. So, your part. So if we're using the same resentment, I'm mad at my borderline girlfriend because she cheated on me with my asshole meth head cousin in Vegas, and it affects every single survival instinct. It affects my self-esteem, my security, my pride, my finances, and my sexual relationships. So that means I'm insecure. I have low self-esteem, I have pride, I have greed, and I have lust. So what's my part? What did I do to get this ball rolling? I didn't do anything. This is what you want to say. I didn't do anything. I was walking along and I stepped in a bear trap. I'm innocent here. No. Now you look at what got you here was that you expected a woman that you knew who had borderline personality disorder, because by now you figured it out. She's told you how many times? How many times did she tell you? How many times has she split on you and accused you of things that you never thought or did? How many times has she ghosted you? How many times has she cheated on you? How many times has she attacked you, punched you, whatever it is, stole from you, whatever her way of splitting on you and acting out is? She's done it to you over and over and over again. So your part is that you were demanding that a mentally unhealthy, unstable person love you. If you don't want to accept that she has a mental illness and that she did it on purpose, then so much the better. You knew, she showed you with her behavior that she isn't somebody you can trust. And you kept coming back to her, or you kept letting her hoover you back when you knew she was going to hurt you again. It's not her fault that you kept telling yourself she's going to change. She's even said that to you. She said, it's your fault you got back together with me. And sometimes she's right. So what's your part? Very simple. You were expecting a mentally unhealthy person, or if you want to look at it this way, a morally depraved person, an untrustworthy person in either case. You were expecting an untrustworthy, unpredictable person to stay faithful to you and love you. That's all on you. She didn't make you do that. You did that. Even if you give yourself the benefit of the doubt and you didn't know and she seduced you into it, the first time that she split on you and betrayed you, you had all the information you needed to know. You kept on going. You kept on doing it. It's nobody's fault but your own. In fact, now that you think about it, you introduced her to your asshole meth head cousin in Vegas. Or, more than likely, he was with her first and he introduced her to you. So no matter how you look at it, you're the one that got yourself there. But it's not your fault. The reason why it's not your fault is because the one thing that isn't your fault is that your mom didn't love you enough, created this wound in your nervous system that got flipped on when you met her. But now that you know, now you have to take action. So those of you that can't go no contact, once you get to the fourth column and you look at what your part is, you should be disgusted enough with yourself to go, my God, I'm not going to have anything more to do with her. She is bad news for me. So that's the fourth step. Now it doesn't end there, because if you're like me, when you're finished with the fourth step, and bear in mind, there's going to be multiple resentments. It's not just that one time, because she did a bunch of other things. So you have a bunch of resentments that you can think of. Just write down the ones you can think of what she did. And in every case, you're going to find out you did something to put yourself into that situation, to get yourself in that trouble. So now we get to step 5. Now you do something that your pride and your ego won't let you do, because up until now, you haven't told anybody this. You may yell and scream about what she did wrong, but you don't really sit and get honest about how incredibly demeaning it is that you did this to yourself. I can't believe I did this to myself. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed, right? So now you're in that state of embarrassment. So you do something you wouldn't normally do. You go to your sponsor. Some guy you met in a CODA meeting. You don't know him, but you said, will you sponsor me? And he said, okay. And you go to him and you don't do anything except you read the columns. I'm mad at my borderline girlfriend because she cheated on me and slept with my asshole meth head cousin in Vegas. It affects my security, my self-esteem, my reputation, my finances, and my sexual relations, which means that I'm insecure, I have low self-esteem, I have pride, greed, and lust. And what is my part? My part is that I wanted love so bad that I was willing to keep throwing myself in front of this woman who showed herself incapable of loving me, and or I kept demanding that somebody loved me who kept showing me that she was incapable or unwilling to do it. And then you sit there feeling like crap because you now said this to your sponsor, and your sponsor laughs. He goes, that's nothing, man. I did a lot worse than that. And then he says to you, and he talks about it a little bit. He shares his thing. And then something happens you can't really put your finger on. But this is when the power greater than you comes in. I guarantee you, when you do this, you do the fifth step, I guarantee you, whatever your higher power is, starts taking the wires out of your brain and rewiring it, and you start to see things more clearly. And all of a sudden you start to realize that, oh my God, all of this craziness I've been feeling is totally unnecessary. And then you're aware now, you go, oh my God, I do this to myself. I did this. I've got this insecurity, this need to be loved. I have this pride. I have this lust. I mean, she's so cute and she's willing to do anything. And sex, I've conflated sex with love, and I think that just because she wants to have crazy sex with me, that she loves me. And oh, I did that. Nobody did. Oh, I did that. Oh, and you have to sit with that. Now you're ready for step 6. Became entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. What are defects of character? They're not sins. They're my willingness to throw my self-esteem away to get love, my controlling behavior to try and force somebody to love me that isn't going to love me, my incredible stupidity of throwing money at somebody in the sense of trying to make them either feel guilty or make them feel fixed or something like that because I selfishly want them to love me. Now you have to live with all this. And so you sit with it for a while and you meditate on these self-preservation instincts that have gone haywire, that are completely controlling you. You didn't have any, you thought in the beginning that it was your choice to get together with her. You thought it was your idea. And you realize now that you were helpless from the beginning, from the moment that your mom either neglected you or abused you and put that little switch inside of you, the need to be loved beyond what normal people can do. That switch in you's been in there, and it just took somebody to go, oh, I see that. Click. It's not your fault. She knew exactly where to find that button because she has the same one, and she flipped it on, and then she used it trying to get herself the same thing you're trying to get for yourself. Love. That's it. You had no choice in this matter from the beginning. This is the part that doesn't, you did do it, but the truth is that you couldn't help yourself. But now you know that. So now you're at step 6. Now you're ready. You know that you can't turn these self-preservation instincts off. You can't turn them off. You know that now. You accept that. You know that you're helpless. You said in the beginning, yes, I'm powerless over my relationship. You said that in the beginning, and now you're like, I am totally powerless over this thing. If she called me right now, I wouldn't be able to say no. And the thought of it just devastates me. I feel so hopeless and powerless. Now you're ready to have your higher power take away these defects of character. It means that your higher power is going to give you the strength not to act on those in that way. These self-preservation instincts are natural. The need for self-esteem, the need for security, the need for reputation, the need for finances, the need for sexual relationships. These are things we need. So these are going to come out of the category of, going crazy and acting, not acting in a way that helps you. And your higher power is going to now, what unseen, unbeknownst to you, is going to put them in a place where they belong inside of you, so that you operate on them. You don't lose these instincts, but you operate rationally in ways that help you and help others. Then you get to step 7. You humbly asked your higher power to remove your shortcomings. So now you just, in however you connect with your higher power, you say, I've got a problem in these 5 areas, and I've got pride, I've got insecurity, I've got lust, I've got greed, I've got all these things, and they get me into trouble, and can you please take them away from me? That's it. You're now done with step 7. And now you're not worried about it. You don't know how you're going to keep yourself from getting into trouble, so you keep talking to your sponsor, you keep going to meetings while all of this stuff is working in the ethers and working in your brain. Your brain is rewiring itself in all kinds of ways you can't see. I guarantee you that's what's happening. Then you get to step 8, where you made a list of all the persons you had harmed. Well, that again was made for alcoholics who did things like stole from people and stole cars and robbed people and barfed on their carpet and screwed their wife and all kinds of horrible things. So they have to go and clean that up. Yours is a little different unless you did those things. Yours is a little different because you've been abused by somebody. You may have said things, you may have gotten angry, you may have slashed her tires. I don't know what you did. You more than likely did or said something that you feel regretful about. But it's made a list of all the persons that we had harmed. So if you've harmed her, you put that down in the list. Now the list doesn't mean anything yet. It doesn't mean you're going to do anything. And you don't know that until you get to step 9. And the other person that you're going to put in step 8 is yourself. You can write yourself 100 times because you damaged yourself by continuously putting yourself in harm's way and allowing yourself to be abused. So the first person that you owe amends to is yourself. So now you get to step 9, and step 9 says, made amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. In this case, you fall into the category of others. Because, whatever you did was a result of extreme abuse, and it would be damaging to you if you were to call up your borderline girlfriend and apologize. It would be very damaging to you. It would also be damaging to her, because what she needs most right now is to not have you around. She needs to let the universe, get her towards therapy. That's not your job. So the kindest, most loving thing you can do is not contact her. The kindest thing you can do for yourself is to say, stay no contact. You can pray for her. You can meditate for her. You can go and make sure that you never do or say those things ever again. That is also a form of making amends. So there's step 9. People get that out of whack. Now, those first 9 steps have laid the foundation. Your healing is happening. Maybe it's not complete yet. Maybe you still have some pain, but I guarantee you've laid the foundation. Your brain, the wires are restructuring themselves. The neurons of your brain are restructuring themselves, and no amount of therapy could do this. 100 years of therapy would not do what 1 week of working the steps would do, however long it takes. It might take you months. It's up to you. Or actually, it's up to you and your sponsor. I recommend doing as quickly as possible. That's just me. Step 10 is continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So step 10 is, if you don't have time, you find yourself getting angry. That guy cut you off on the freeway, and you're angry, 6 hours later. Well, it's a resentment. So you just write it out. You'll find out what you did to make yourself angry. Maybe he cut you off. Maybe you were going too fast. Maybe, you could have done something, that might have put you in a position to make you angry. It could have just been that you got angry. Doesn't matter. You take personal inventory, and when you were wrong, so you write it down, you realize, well, there really isn't anything. I just happened to be angry. But when you did or said something, you promptly admit it first to yourself. And if it's your friend or your wife, you say, hey, listen, earlier today I snapped at you and you didn't deserve that, and I apologize. Now you've done step 10. Step 10 works, but when you have a resentment that won't go away, go back and do the fourth step again. I can't tell you how many written fourth steps I've done, which is, again, writing down my resentments. So step 10, at the end of the day, you go over your day and you look at, how did I act throughout the day? Did I cause people damage? Did I cause myself damage? And then you do a little mini inventory in your head. You move on. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God as we understood God, meaning your version of, eternal love or the sky or a doorknob or whatever. You now start to practice meditation, because that also gives you the ability to look at yourself from a higher perspective. You get a little distance. You're not so wrapped up in it. And then step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. I don't care if 10 years ago you had an out-of-body experience and you saw God. It wasn't good enough to keep you from getting involved with a borderline that almost destroyed you. So you need to have a spiritual awakening, not a spiritual experience. Spiritual awakening is a cognitive thing where you become consciously aware. Yeah, man, that's not a good thing to do. I now have a better idea of how to function. That's a spiritual awakening. You can't get more spiritual than knowing what the most constructive thing is for you and for somebody else. Even if you feel homicidal or suicidal, if you have the ability to know what is most constructive for you and for others, you have now achieved enlightenment. You can't get more enlightened than that. So that's step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, practice these principles in all our affairs. That means now you have a way to live, a way to interact, which will protect you. If you act in accordance with those principles, you will not get involved with a borderline. You will not get involved with a narcissist. You will not get into trouble. It's a bulletproof vest that keeps you from stepping in bear traps. And then sharing the message with somebody else. So then you go to meetings, you share in meetings how the steps helped you, how you're better than you were, how you've overcome a lot of things. You're not nearly in the same amount of pain you were before. This video channel is part of my 12th step. Every time I come out here and say I've been healed, I'm doing my 12th step. And then you sponsor somebody else. You make yourself available. Somebody else comes along and says, will you be my sponsor? And you say, sure. And the way you sponsor them is he calls you up in the middle of the night and he says, my girlfriend was there. And you say, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. When do you want to get together and work on step 1? Your job as a sponsor is to take them through the steps that you went through. If you do these 12 steps, I guarantee you, you will be healed from the pain of your narcissistic abuser. In fact, you will be so healed from it that you won't have any pain, you won't have any regrets. I don't know how long it'll take. It took me a couple of months. It might take you a little longer, but I guarantee you it'll come. Now, you'll still have your codependent tendencies, whatever they are, but you will be able to avoid getting yourself, like I said, stepping in a bear trap. All right, so these are the 12 steps. These are why they work. Go and do them, or not. The majority of people on this channel aren't going to watch this video, which means that I get to write more books and make more money off of your pain. I'll tell you in every single book exactly what to do, but you'll skip that part and you'll dive into all of the craziness about how screwed up their mind is and all of that. And you know what? I'm going to keep doing it because eventually people are going to start doing it. Every now and then people say, I finally decided to work the steps, and thank you so much. So anyway, that's it. So the 12 steps are not at all what you think you are, but now that I've told you them, you have to go do them. Now it's like me explaining to you the mechanics of why bodybuilding gives you big muscles. Knowing that will not give you big muscles, but getting your ass in a gym and lifting the weights will. So get your ass to a CODA meeting, coda.org. Look for an online Zoom meeting if you don't want to go to one in person, or if there isn't one in your hometown. There's one all over the world all the time. You can go online. Get yourself a sponsor, get some phone numbers. Stop contacting me and saying, hey, we should get together. If you heard my story, you could make a 4-hour video. I have no interest in listening to all the craziness you went through. Go tell your sponsor, go tell somebody else in CODA. I got my own craziness to deal with. All right, that's it. I wish you guys all the best. Do the one thing and heal, or don't, and don't heal. Completely up to you. See you next time.